Welcome to the Bucher and Friends podcast, co-starring 10-year NFL veteran and Super Bowl champion, Will Blackmon.
Manning from the end zone. He throws, and a deflect away, and it is picked off by Will Blackmon, the former Giant.
Tim Dwight watches it hit, bounces, picks it up at the 10, slips a defender, fumbles the football, it's up for grabs, it's covered in the end zone by Will Blackmon for a Green Bay touchdown!
And now, here is your host,
Let's send it over to Rick Bucher.
Rick Bucher.
Welcome to another episode of Bucher and Blackmon, subsidiary of Bucher and Friends, part of the United WeCast Network. I'm Rick Bucher. You can find my stuff at Bleacher Report. You can find me on Twitter at Rick Bucher. He is Super Bowl champ and 12-year NFL vet. Will Blackmon, you can see him on NFL Network. You can find him on Twitter at Will Blackmon, and you can obviously hear him here. You can also follow the show at Bucher Friends on both Twitter and Instagram. And check it out. We have a NCAA bracket, CBS bracket. We'll be tweeting it out. You'll find it in conjunction with the show. Come join us. We are giving away cash prizes. You don't have to pay anything to get in, but you can win some money if you end up beating all of us. Will, I assume that you are going to participate in the bracket, that you're at the very least going to fill one out, because as we were setting this up, you were very quiet on the text string in trying to put together the show's bracket challenge.
I was listening. You guys were, you Libby and Sensitive Ryan, you guys were.
That might be his new name. It might be Bucher and Sensitive Ryan. That might be.
I'll let you guys talk, and then I have to read it and go over it, and then come to my senses.
Yeah, were you going to participate at some point? Were you going to comment? Were you going to contribute at all? Or are you just kind of sitting back and soaking it all in?
I don't think you guys needed me to contribute, did you?
We would welcome your opinion on all the decisions that we were making as far as prize money.
Well, it's already 3-1. So if I said no, then I mean I'm out anyway. So
see, this I believe is why you were a uniter in the locker room, because you don't really take sides. You sort of examine where everybody stands, and then you find the perfect middle place. We're gonna have Shauna Blackmon on, and I'm gonna run this by her to see if I'm on to something here. But you have been consistent in, even when we have, like, when we were talking about the dispute between Richard Sherman or not Richard Sherman, but the players and the agents, and that Richard Sherman took exception to that. And you said, well, wait a minute. Richard Sherman's my friend and Peter Schaefer's my agent, and they were at the heart of it. So you weren't even taking a side there. You were like, yeah, I know people on both sides, but you never really took a stand on the issue.
I didn't.
And you're not going to now.
That's why I don't know if I have any enemies, and if I do have any enemies, yes. I don't know who they are.
Yeah. and you wouldn't know why. Right? Why be an enemy of Will Blackmon? He's
even when I get into like certain beefs on social media, it all ends well.
Yes. Well,
yes. Like we have our disputes, our whatever it is, go back and forth, and then I'll cool it off like, all right, I see what you're saying. They're like, my bad, Will. I'm just passionate.
You're a uniter, not a divider. That's the way I look at it.
My man.
As I said, we are going to have Shauna Blackmon. I want to there's so much that I want to ask her. But she's letting us know exactly where the podcast stands in the hierarchy of the Blackmon family. She is helping Ryder with his homework right now, and we'll be getting Shauna on the podcast as soon as she has completed her duties there. In the meantime, it does give us an opportunity to get into Johnny Manziel getting yet another bite of the cherry in terms of...
What is that?
Actually, you know what it is? You'll appreciate this. That's Toby Charles, longtime soccer commentator, and he used to say, he used to have all these phrases, and he would be the voice of a show called Soccer Made in Germany that would be the highlights, a 1-hour highlight every weekend. We're so spoiled now, but at that time, that was the only like international soccer that you could count on seeing on a weekly basis. And it was Soccer Made in Germany, Toby Charles, whatever. I don't know why they got an English guy to do the highlights, but they did. He was well known, and he would have all these phrases. Like, and one of them was, "Oh, he got another bite of the cherry."
Oh my gosh.
If a guy got a second shot. Anyway, he Johnny Manziel, that is getting another opportunity. This time with the Memphis Express of the Alliance of American Football. And before we get to Johnny and yet another opportunity, I have to say I was so excited about the AAF and what I saw the first weekend or so, and then it just dropped off the radar, plummeted off the cliff, and not because it's any less, but I'm just not conscious of it. And when it comes to the sports landscape, I don't know when they're playing. There are no reminders of when they're playing. It just seems to be an afterthought. And even though I like the product, I don't feel compelled to watch it. If I happen on it, I'll watch it. But otherwise, I'm not tuning in. What about you?
You know what? It's funny because I don't even see enough promotion for it for it to remind me like it's going on. And then sometimes, I'll see people comment on social media like, "Oh, what a play," and then I'll go to my TV and I can't find it.
Which is really shocking, particularly for you because you work for the NFL Network. They replay the games or play the games, broadcast the games on the NFL Network. They have a major network behind them. Like, it's stunning to me that they don't have more of a presence.
I'm actually bitter that I'm not able to call those games.
And I could understand why.
I thought that was a good opportunity for me to call those games. I'm bitter about that.
Did you try out? Did you put your name?
No, I don't know how it works. I honestly did not know how it worked. You know,
maybe that's something for our agent to explore. Do we still have the same agent?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be talking out of turn.
No, you're good.
Okay. Paging Debbie Spander to the white courtesy phone. We need to start making some calls for Mr. Blackmon. And while you're at it, if you want to make some calls for me too, I'm open. I have some available time. Here's the thing. So you mentioned, who was it who took exception to the fact that Johnny Manziel got drummed out of the CFL?
It was receiver Nate Washington. He played for the Steelers and the Titans. Really good receiver. And, he mentioned, like, okay, of course, Johnny keeps getting chances. Johnny Manziel keeps getting chances, and then he hashtag privileged.
What do you make of that? Do you agree with him?
I understand it to an extent because it is Johnny. He is a Heisman, and he kept getting a lot of chances in terms of, like, going to different leagues. Mm-hmm. However, fortunately for me, I was just in Canada, and so many guys on my team, this was like their second or third chance. Whether they got suspended from the NFL, whether they were incarcerated, whether, they had an injury or left football for a while. This was their chance to try to get back in the league. I watched the pregame yesterday when the Arizona Hotshots were playing, and the linebacker during his pregame speech, he gave a really good speech, and he was like, "Listen, all of us are trying to get back in the league." So that's to my point where, Johnny's story is different. Where whatever it is, like, he keeps getting his chances, but everyone's situation is different. Whether it's, like I said, being incarcerated, being suspended from the NFL, or you just have to go a different route. Because he's doing everything. He went to the spring league that's taking place in a couple weeks. He went to Canada, 2 different teams, and now he's getting a chance here. And I mean,
well, here's the other thing. Did you ever get a clear sense of why he got bounced from the CFL? I know he violated some sort of rules, but it wasn't clear what those rules were and why he was booted, at least while I was following the story.
Well, I know initially when he signed with Hamilton Tiger Cats, and then he got traded to Montreal they sent the house. Mm-hmm. Basically, I'm sure trying to get revenue because Toronto, the Alouettes, I don't think they have a huge attendance because you have the Raptors there, you have the Blue Jays there, you have the MLS team there, you have a bunch of teams there right there that no one cares to go watch them. And it was definitely a financial play. And I believe he violated in terms of, I think he already signed with the AAF. And when you're under contract in the CFL, you have to be released first before you can sign. I think that's what happened.
Oh, so you don't think anything untoward happened? I got the sense
I don't know. There's probably more to it.
Yeah.
But that's what it seemed like.
Well, and let's keep in mind, if for whatever Nate Washington feels, going to the Memphis Express, the worst team in the AAF, is, I guess it's privilege. I guess it's another opportunity. But it's Johnny Manziel, the name. It's Johnny Manziel, first-round pick. Yeah, he's going to get more opportunities, especially if, from everything I heard as far as how he played in the CFL, he played well. It wasn't a matter like he stunk it up in the NFL, he stunk it up in the CFL, and now he's getting a shot in the AAF.
Well, initially he stunk it up in the CFL. His first game, he threw 4 picks.
Yes, and he got crushed, trying to run the ball.
He got laid out the next game.
Yes, but on it, and I didn't follow Johnny up in the CFL.
Right,
I just remember what was said, that hey, he was playing well. This isn't about his performance.
The ability is there. He can throw the ball very well. It's just, in between the ears.
Yeah.
And, going into the AF, out of all the quarterbacks, he does have the biggest profile.
Sure. Right.
He is the most successful quarterback in college.
And like it or not, that when you have a profile and you have shown a requisite ability, you are going to get more than one chance.
You are.
That's
exactly.
that's life in professional sports.
Okay.
Yeah. So I hear you, Nate, but you're kind of bucking against what is a regular trend. It's not Johnny Manziel. It's not because he's a white quarterback. It's
right.
Or Texas A&M or any of that. It's because that's how it works. I mean, Josh Gordon. I could say the same thing.
I could say the same thing for RG3.
Exactly.
He's gonna keep getting signed.
Exactly. So, yeah. So I just, it'll be interesting. I don't know if it'll be enough. And Mike Singletary is the coach of the Memphis Express. And there was one game that I watched with Memphis, and their offense was horrific. So right now they have the second fewest points scored in the league, and they have the worst record at 1-5. So it's not as if, Johnny Manziel is going to some sort of juggernaut. He's being looked at as, hey, why not? Let's throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. All right. So have you watched any college basketball? Like, are you easy pickings when it comes to our bracket?
I am easy pickings. I'm kind of like, whatever's the high profiled game, I'll watch that. Okay. Like I watched the entire Duke UNC game the other night. I did watch that game.
It's funny as you prepare for the bracket, everybody gets all hot and bothered with picking upsets. And what's the secret to picking upsets?
What is the secret of picking upsets?
Well, 12s over 5s are
12s over 5s.
12s over 5s. That historically or statistically, those are where the most of the upsets happen. But if you followed the upsets that are being predicted by everybody, you'd be predicting an upset for just about every game. And when it comes down to it, the other statistic is, when all is said and done, the number 1s and the number 2s invariably end up in the Final Four. It's
at the end of the day.
Yes.
Right.
It's rare that you have anything else. Now, that didn't stop me from, I think I have Purdue, which is a number 3 pick right now. I have them in the championship game against Duke. And I picked some other outliers, but...
What do you got between Marquette and Murray State? That's the game I do want to see.
I have Murray State.
Because I think if Morant was on an ACC team, a Power 5 team...
Yes.
He would be right there with Zion in terms of star power.
From the NBA's perspective, you are correct. It wasn't that long ago, and I haven't talked to any GMs about the draft yet. I will say this. Anybody who is handicapping the draft, the NBA draft, and you're looking at performances in the NCAA tournament, and if you see anybody saying their stock is rising or falling, they don't know what they're talking about. I know of at least one GM, top flight, highly regarded GM, who doesn't even watch the tournament until after the tournament is over, because he doesn't want to be unfairly swayed. But the circumstances, and this is why. It's not because they're being lazy.
He wants to be like non-subjective, like he just wants to watch it on his, like he watches tape.
Yeah, yes, he'll watch tape afterward. He doesn't watch it live because you can get caught up in the drama, and if somebody makes a big run and whatnot, and he wants to be dispassionate about it.
That's funny because that's what I do. Like I'll watch a game, yeah, but I'll watch it as a fan. Mm-hmm. I don't really. I might critique and analyze like the things I see that stand out, but I always got to go back to the tape.
Yeah. The other part is that the circumstances in the tournament are very deceiving. In the NBA, everybody gets a book on you. You're playing the same 29 teams, and you're playing basically the same conference. And you're playing 82 games. Familiarity and your ability to deal with familiarity is an important element. All of that is out the window in the NCAA tournament.
Right, all uncommon opponents.
Uncommon opponent, uncommon referees, uncommon style of play, uncommon starting times, uncommon schedule.
Courts, arenas.
Everything is a wild card.
That's why it's cool.
It is. It's great entertainment. It's fun, and it's why it's impossible to predict in some ways. The predictability is a challenge. That's why, my son is picking. He's full into it now. He's full into the bracket thing, and he gets really excited. And I remember last year. Last year was the first year. He was 13. First year, he really got into it. He's picking brackets. He's all excited, and like after the first week, like his bracket was completely shattered. His enthusiasm went from 9 and 9.5 to a 3, where he wasn't even.
By the way, this will be my first bracket ever.
Ever.
Anyhow, we'll continue this bracket, but we have, how Blake Bortles is moving. He's now moving from Jacksonville to California.
Yes.
And I am very familiar with making that move.
Yes.
And I have my partner here in crime.
She's here. Shauna Blackmon has arrived.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Are those matching? Do you guys have matching headsets?
No, we don't. We don't.
All right. I was wondering.
How are you?
Shauna, welcome to the show.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm great. How did the homework go? What were we working on?
Oh, today we had math because he has a math test tomorrow. Okay. And we're also working on a book report. He's doing a book report on Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter.
Oh, the late Steve Irwin.
Yes, nonfiction book report.
Does Bindi make an appearance?
Bindi made an appearance in the book. Did you know that Bindi was named after one of his favorite crocodiles named Bindi?
I did not know
I didn't know that until we read this book either.
Wow. And who's to say that you don't learn about just about everything on Bucher and Blackmon here on the podcast?
That's right.
My first question, I actually had completely forgotten about this, but right before we started to record, I said to my wife, Shauna's coming on the show today. Okay. And she said, are you going to mention the Christmas card?
Oh, the Christmas card.
And I said, now I am.
Okay.
So, beautiful Christmas card. Amazing Christmas card. But we thought that you had photoshopped the kids into the the Christmas card, because the kids were like standing here and you guys as a couple were standing here, and we just wondered, so what was the deal?
No, there's no photoshopping. We were going for more of an editorial look for the Christmas card. So normally we do, like the cozy, huddled up family all on the couch or the beach or something like this. Yes. But this year we wanted to do more of an editorial look on a nice kind of a grand staircase and have the kids a couple feet away from us. Looking sweet, and then here we are on this side of the stairs. So yeah, just more of an editorial vibe.
Okay, all right. I can go with that. It struck me like you guys were ready to go out. You guys were ready to go out. No, by the way, here are the kids were like props. Like,
that's so funny.
Anyway, gorgeous kids, by the way. So my understanding of when you met, I've been longing to have this conversation.
Okay.
You met Will when he was broke and broken.
That's a pretty good description.
Wow, pretty good.
Yes, we met on crutches. Wouldn't that be fair to say?
I wasn't a boot.
He was broken in that sense that he had just had surgery for the second time on your foot.
Yeah,
right?
second foot surgery.
The second foot surgery. We actually met over the phone through a mutual friend. We had not seen each other in person. We met over the phone through a mutual friend, and we talked on the phone for about, I would say, 6 to 8 hours a day. He was off. He had played, I think, 2 years at that time.
Yeah, he
was going into his third year.
Right.
And I sang. That's what I did professionally. I sang and danced and performed all over. So I was in my off season as well. I was recording in Atlanta. I had just gotten back to California to visit my mom and taking some time off from recording my album. And we met over the phone, and we talked on the phone every day for about 6 to 8 hours. And then he flew out to see me in California about 3 weeks later. And he then proposed on the 4th date. That's how fast it was. And then it's like we've known each other for 11 years and we've been married for 11 years.
So he proposed on the 4th date. How many more dates before you accepted?
I was right away. I knew.
Wow, really? My goodness.
Yeah, we knew right away.
By the way, if you hear a meow, that's our Bengal kitten.
Yes.
Boomer. He's trying to get into the office.
He is.
Okay.
So that's how that happened.
So I'm just curious because we just had sort of a planning text string, and Will didn't participate at all. Does he go silent on you at times? Or, I mean, I would assume that having 6 to 8 hour conversations on the phone, that we're just special, that he's just...
Well, actually, I think the thing that was special about us is that there really wasn't any moments of silence. We just got to know each other from the ground up. I mean, we built such a strong foundation because it was purely conversation. There was no physical anything.
Right.
So it's like we knew everything spiritually, mentally, everything that you could think of, we knew about each other before we ever met each other in person.
So after that first conversation on the phone, at what point did you Google him to find out what he looked like?
Oh, that's funny. Actually, back then it was MySpace.
Okay.
And I know. And so we went to each other's MySpace. And the funny thing about it was, initially, if you were to look at his page, it looked like he was promoting a clothing line because he was actually helping he had nothing to do with football on there whatsoever.
Interesting.
And he was actually helping his friend Pascal launch a clothing line. And so initially, when we were first talking, when we were getting to know each other, it wasn't right off the bat that's what he did and that I was a singer and all of this stuff. You could have looked at his MySpace and thought he was like a clothing promoter. That's
interesting.
So interesting. Yeah. And
Where are we going with this?
No, we were talking about...
By the way, I just saw a report that MySpace, they lost everyone's music.
Oh, interesting.
Wow.
Anyhow, sorry.
Yeah.
No,
so
thank you for joining. Thank you for joining in, Will. You can You're...
He had to get our cat to stop talking.
That's okay. So broken though. I mean, when you met him, he wasn't flying high. He wasn't like what we normally think of. Hey, you meet a professional athlete or whatever. There weren't the bells and whistles, and obviously you guys got to know each other over the phone. It was I guess really a grounded relationship from the very start.
Yeah.
With all that said, so what was it that appealed to you about Mr. Blackmon?
Are you looking here smiling?
Look at that cheesy smile.
I know. You know what? There is something so just authentic and just genuine about him. And when you speak with somebody on the phone, that's for hours and hours on end, especially like we did. I mean, you just get to know their heart, and that's what it was with him. It's like, even just learning his background, with his mother passing and just how he was raised and the environment in which he was raised and all of that. It's like we had so many things that for me, he was just so genuine and so different than a lot of the people I mean, especially too, I was in the entertainment industry also and dealing with, men, and he was so different. I mean, of course, I dealt with athletes and musicians and various people, and he was just so special and so different. And that all, like you said, we had a very grounded relationship because we met over the phone. It was awesome.
Very cool. I don't know that our listeners were anticipating that they were going to have a lesson in relationships or building one or any of that.
We have everything here.
Yeah.
That's why it's Bucher and Friends.
Yes.
No, that's right.
Friends with benefits, yes. Bucher and Friends with Benefits. That's what we'll call this episode. So one of the big reasons that I wanted to have you on is because you have had to handle moving the family and sort of the interrupted life that a professional athlete, or at least that Will experienced with his career. And we've talked about various episodes, and I'm just wondering, and what he's always bragged about, or at least complimented you on, is how easily you handled it. Like there would be a abrupt change, you'd have to move, something came up.
Right,
and
whether
then,
it was free agency or being released or a contract expired, right?
Right.
Yeah. And you would just be, okay, let's get after it. There was no frustration, which I
what are we gonna do?
Yeah. Yeah. No, how could you do this? I don't want to move.
I'm a firm believer that, if one door closes, another will open, and God will always bring you to a better opportunity ahead. So I think faith would be the word that if he got released, if he, was in a situation, which we had been in several situations where he got wrongfully released, it was always a positive outlook. Like, what, that's okay, because the next place we go to is going to be better for you, better for your career, better for us as a family. We're always taken to where we're supposed to be. So it never really fazed me in that sense. Now for him emotionally, that's, what would get me, because obviously he would be going through a very tough time, and that makes me go through a tough time for him. But I was always the positive one, the one that was reassuring that this is for a better opportunity. So let's just let that go, move on, and think about the excitement to come. It's an exciting time when even if you get released, it's like, okay, let's think about the positive stuff. Where are we going to go? What team are we going to be on now for the family? What do we get to do and experience? Like, we take our kids to new zoos, new aquariums, new schools, meet new friends, meet new people. It's like there's always such a positive outlook on that regardless. So, we always looked at it as an adventure. But I would say after 11 times, see, the thing with us is that he would sometimes be still rehabilitating his knee, or various surgeries and things like that. So we'd always come back to California to work with Gavin McMillan, his trainer. So when we say we moved 11 times, it's because we would go somewhere and then come back in the off season.
Gotcha.
And move everything, for those 5 months, and then move back cross country.
How much do you think your experience in the entertainment business and how fickle that can be kind of conditioned you allowed you to understand what he was going through, that it wasn't an indictment of him that things kept changing, it was, this is just the way the business is?
That's 100%. I mean, back to your question on what did I love about him when we first met, I think we could relate so much, being in similar industries where, first of all, it's the top of the top, the elitist, the big dreams. And with those big dreams come massive failures, come massive disappointments. You're not going to get there. Everyone would be there if that was the case. I mean, there's so much that you have to go through to get to that point. And we related so much, baby, on all of that stuff. And we've talked endlessly about my experiences that relate to his experiences, whether they're positive things or disappointing things. So, I mean, that was for sure 100%. I think that we were paired perfectly with each other for that very reason. And
right, like I didn't have to explain anything. For example, when I met her, she was going through her own contractual dispute.
Yes. With
her people. So just to give you an example.
Right. I was coming out of a big situation and moving into more of an independent record label situation, coming from a big record label. So it was the shift and the whole, and it was very political, and all of the things that he has endured, I myself did as well in a different form of the entertainment industry. So it was, I don't know, I've always been able to relate just wholeheartedly because I myself have been in very similar situations.
I'm trying to pinpoint your accent.
Every single person I've met in my whole life says that, and I don't have one, and I don't think I do, but I think it's more of a dialect. I don't know. I was born and raised in Southern California, around a lot of, melting pot, a lot of cultures. I don't know if that has something to do with it, but everybody has said that since I was little, and I don't hear it, but everyone else does.
Yeah, there's like an edge of foreign. I don't know, the Balkans are like not Russian, but like this.
Some kind of European something.
Yeah, I can't. It's got that. I mean, it's a very precise, and you're right. There's no like twang or lilt.
Did you hear anything she just said, or you were just listening to her accent?
No, kind of 50-50. I was in and out.
That's funny. Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, I think I'm the only one that doesn't hear it or doesn't know what's happening. So I don't know. I don't know where it's coming from.
But I'm not the first. I'm not the first to imagine that. So what was unfailingly optimistic and encouraging and positive? What was the move or the announcement or the change that was most challenging for you, where you kind of had to take a deep breath and go, okay, let's go?
Yes, I could almost say two of them equally. When we got released from Jacksonville, we really had really set roots in Jacksonville more there than anywhere else. I think that it's like we had our second child there, and we were really rooted. Our son Ryder was in a fantastic school. We just loved his school. He loved all his friends, and our neighbors were everything. We really set roots there. We were only there for 2 years, but it seems like a lot longer than that.
Well, because we stayed there year round this time.
We did stay there year round.
Like she said earlier, we would go back to California off season. In Jacksonville, we just stayed the whole time year round.
Okay.
Yes, it's such a, I don't know, there was something really homey about it, and we would have stayed there. Now, again, regardless of the fact that Jacksonville, that was, man, they were losing. It was a really, we just, won Super Bowl with the Giants and did all these really great things, and to go onto a team that was just really struggling.
I never had a losing season in my life.
Okay, not in his life.
Prior to that.
And now,
wow.
So, and he will tell you, I am actually the more competitive one out of the two of us. And so me watching these games, I was going nuts. Oh my gosh, it was pretty rough, And again, I'm really positive, but some of the things that I saw happening were just really tough to watch.
All right, where do you like to watch the game? At home, at the stadium, in this family section? I like to be front row and at the games. Now
right behind the bench.
50 yard line. Because William and I talk, and if something happens, he'll look back and he'll give me the signals and all that stuff. So we talk during the game. So that's where I like to be. A lot of people like, okay, look, baby, even in Green Bay, it was like negative 25, whatever.
Yeah.
I was dying. Okay, I'm from Southern California. I mean, I'm talking about I was dying, literally.
That's how I knew it was love, because she moved from Orange County to Green Bay.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. That's a good point. It's very fair.
That was rough. I mean, gosh, their winters are like 10 months long. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was down there, and of course, got offered to sit in the box seating and do all that, but I always refused because I just wanted to be down close, like with him, and feel the energy of what was actually going on. So that's where I like to be. For some of his away games, I would, of course, be at home, especially once we had kids. I mean, we didn't have kids for a little bit, so initially, along with the moving, it was very easy when it was just me or an infant. But once they start school, or you have multiple children.
And to that point, like, I'm just wondering, handling the logistics, what's the hardest, and you should never double barrel questions, but I'm going to anyway. The hardest thing about moving a family, like when you discover you have to move again.
Yes.
What is the thing you first like, oh, okay, I got to take care of this. This is the last thing I really want to take care of, but it's really the first thing I have to take care of.
Well, for me, it's always been the emotional aspect for at the time it would have been our oldest, which is Ryder, because he gets so attached with his friends and with his school, and to a child, where you are is seems very permanent, right?
Right.
And so they don't think about being uprooted. But the thing that hit me that really, really hard was when we moved from Jacksonville. So we were in Seattle for a brief stint. We went to Jacksonville. And then from Jacksonville, we went back to Seattle, but we had a choice, didn't we, baby? We could have gone to Atlanta or to Seattle.
Well, yeah, I could have waited. Probably another week to hear from Dan Quinn in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
But John
was very adamant.
He was adamant, and I said
adamant.
No to go back to Seattle because I got burned the first time.
Super burned, right.
And then I got this call at midnight, and it was Pete Carroll.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, just talking to me, hey, man. And
convincing him that's right, where he needs to go.
I'm John's guy. I'm not Pete's guy. I'm John's guy, you
right.
know? And so I was like, you know what? I like challenges. Let me go ahead and do it again.
Right. So we thought, okay, since Pete called, this is the real deal this time. We're not going to get burned. Let's just take a leap, and then we'll be back on the West Coast, closer towards, grandma, grandpa, and that stuff, at least on my side of the family, because we were on the East Coast prior. So just all of that we took into consideration and thought, okay, I think this time, and he was familiar with Seattle because we had been there for several months before. We moved there, and then the hardest, that was really, really difficult this particular time, because we got to Seattle, we moved into a little apartment to kind of figure things out and maybe get through training camp, see how that's going. I don't know why we did it like this, but it felt right, and it wasn't right, that we wound up moving from this little apartment. We found this house for our family that was very close to the facility. I mean, we could ride our bikes there if we wanted to. We thought this was the right place. We decided to move there one day before roster cuts. Okay, I don't know why it happened like that. And if there's one thing I could do over, it would have been that, but obviously that's not the case. We moved there. I stayed up until about 4 o'clock in the morning. My mom was visiting us at the new house. We put everything away.
Oh,
I'm talking about everything. Every time we move,
Right.
This is what I do. I get the house completely set within 24 hours. I mean, absolutely perfect within 24 hours, because that's just how I like it. I want it to feel like a home, not like we've been moving around a bazillion times. So I do that all within the first 24 hours. We did that, dude, the next morning. I'm talking about, what was it, 9 o'clock?
It was like close to 9.
It was close to 9 o'clock. Mind you, I had just gone to sleep basically from setting the house, and this house was like, I mean, it was the house, like, okay, this is where we're going to stay. We're here in Seattle, 9 o'clock in the morning. They text William they called him to come in, and we just knew. We were like, oh, he's getting released. Wow. I mean, it was just crazy. So when you talk about heartbroken, that was
really bad.
That was really rough, because we just moved from cross country from Jacksonville to this apartment. I stayed back in Jacksonville with the kids so Ryder could finish out his school year. And so we were already a couple months behind William. So we were excited to go, moved into this little apartment. Okay, this is a little too small. We were in Bellevue, and we thought let's get a little closer to Renton, which is where the facility is. Right. So we found the house, moved in. That freaking next day, like a couple hours later, literally, he got released.
And the question people ask is like, why would you move if nothing's ever a guarantee?
Exactly.
Like, why would you do that? Well, when I came to Seattle the first time, I was fighting my ass off just to get a spot.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
This time, they gave me the starting nickel.
They said he was a shoo-in. They told him he's a shoo-in.
I was starting nickel the entire, OTAs, minicamp, training camp, preseason, all those games. And then the last game, they always rest the starters. They play the first series or don't play at all. I played one series. And then guys kept getting hurt, so I kept going in. And so I'm like, shoot. I made it to the last game.
Yes.
So that's why.
How do you not? And Will has said he doesn't hold any bitterness toward them. You got burned not once but twice, and this time it was like you were almost set up for it. Like, how do you not hold on to some resentment because of how that went down? And I would,
you know what it is. You just make mental notes. It is what it is. Because Because at the end of the day, it's business. Yeah, it sucks, but it's business. It wasn't
a personal thing.
It wasn't a personal choice. It was just a bad business decision.
Yeah, I mean,
That's tough.
Because
that sounds good.
he says that, and that's genuinely like what he says every time.
It's not that I'm not bothered by it. No, I'm furious, and I think it's annoying and it's frustrating, and that's part of why, I haven't been playing the past couple of years, because I kind of got exhausted just with the politics. It's not like, oh, I'm settled and happy with my career. I'm done playing. My body's beat up. No, I got tired of fighting everybody to be somewhere. I fought for my life. Ever since I hurt my knee in 2009, I fought for my life every single year just to play.
Right.
And so I just got exhausted. And no, trust me, John Snyder knows I'm annoyed. But at the end of the day, he called me and asked me about a player. I answered it, and we had a genuine conversation. Because at the end of the day, right, I did get burned twice, but in 2012, when I was out the league, nobody was answering my calls. John answered the call. And he brought me in, worked me out, signed me that offseason. This is 2013. And
that's led to Washington.
That led to Jacksonville.
That led to Jacksonville. Okay.
The first time it led to Jacksonville.
Okay.
Because he tried to trade for me, but...
Got you.
Anyhow.
All right.
But then I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's when the DC situation came after the second burn.
After the second Seattle. Yeah.
Yes.
It's funny because we know this is like how wired we are. So we know, okay, if it's the last day of cuts and we get a call, it's like, damn, that's not good news.
Yes.
And then the first day of the new season, if I get a call like early as hell in the morning,
we know that he's going somewhere.
That's a team call.
Like, all right, you're out of here.
Like I got a call at 6:00 in the morning on Monday. I was like, okay, that's somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's East Coast time. If it's 6 here, it's 9 there. So that means you're going somewhere to the East Coast. Like we know exactly how it works.
So all across the land, there's these NFL players that there's a calendar and there's a certain day. There are days that you want the call, and then there's certain days you do not want the phone.
You don't want the call.
Yeah.
You please don't let his phone ring. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. All right, before we say goodbye, there was one other thing that I wanted to get to, and Will talked about how you transformed his diet, that he was not a very good eater, and you came in and you cleaned that act up in a hurry. So give me a sense of what it was like for you to first see what Will was eating and what he was eating and how you turned the tide.
Well, he ate a lot of fast food. We met too when we were very young. I mean, you were 22. Mm-hmm. I'm 2 years older. So he was 22. I understand that, a single man, he might just want to run out and get fast food, but I personally know that that's not going to be able to sustain his optimal health, whatsoever. So for me, that always really bothered me. And I knew that his injuries, again, we met on crutches. I knew a lot of that probably had to do with deficiencies. And because a lot of his injuries, actually most of, were non-contact. They were from planting his foot, cutting this way, cutting that.
Why were you so conscious of the physical effects of nutrition and all of that? You were a singer, not a
not a nutritionist.
Yes. You are from Southern California though, so maybe
it is definitely more of that kind of a lifestyle out here. But I've always been that way. Actually, I was a vegetarian for 17 years. I'm very, very health conscious. Growing up, I wanted to do, sports medicine, but I also was very interested in biology, even marine biology. So it's kind of just my nature to be very on top of that type of a thing. And I've always been into supplements and vitamins and fitness. I trained people, certified, all that stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, just that was my lifestyle in general. Actually, I was training people and helping people with nutrition when I was singing, trying to make money while you sing and do all of that. So, I knew a lot about it. I did a lot of studying, and I knew for sure he was not going in the right direction, especially.
So do you remember the first time you saw him eating, I don't know, it was McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, what it was? Yeah,
he would get McDonald's before a game sometimes.
Wow.
And that mortifying to me. I'm like, wow, that's what you're gonna eat before that. I mean,
what was the meal, Will? What was your?
What was the meal?
Yeah, what was your pregame meal?
I was a 20-piece nugget dude, man.
French fries.
Oh wow!
So funny. So I remember I got my McDonald's, walked on the plane, and Aaron Campman, our Pro Bowl defensive end, grabbed my food and threw it off the plane, and gave me a turkey sandwich. So he's part of changing my diet as well.
Okay.
Hence why they need veterans on the team. I feel like now, I mean, seriously, because now it's not even, I mean, it used to be a veterans league, which to me made all the sense in the world, and now it's just not. Most teams don't even bother. So
it is.
I don't know. You need those guys. You need the leaders. They know what they're talking about.
It's actually, that is a issue in all of the major sports. The NBA and Major League Baseball have the same thing. I believe part of it is that GMs want to look smart, and that if they draft guys or they have young, they look smart if they draft somebody or a young guy comes up and he does something. If it's the veteran, they don't really get the same sort of shine.
Some credit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the other part a lot of times is the cost as well. Like
that's everything for sure too. Yeah, absolutely.
So
that's frustrating. I mean, you pay for experience, right? You want that leadership experience.
And I'm not sure that they're really saving money in the long run. The value of having veterans that teach the young guys how to take care of themselves and how to play the game and do all that, I think there's some intangible and intrinsic value in that
for sure
the teams are overlooking. So, you know what? I lied. I said that the food thing was the last question, but there is one other one that I have. And so Will told me that, like, when you guys met, he had this instant connection with you, and after his dad met you, he said that you reminded him of Will's mother.
Of his mother. Yeah,
Yes.
That's a big compliment.
Yeah, that was my first thought. Like, somebody says that,
Huge.
you could go, wow, that's amazing, or you go, wow, that's really scary, or maybe a little of both.
No. That for me, that gave me chills. I mean, his dad will never. Let's see. Gosh, how long has your mom been passed now? Probably
Since 92.
Since 92. So William was 6 years old. So 25 years about his mom has been gone, and his dad will not say "I love you" to anyone else. He will not remarry. He won't. That was the love of his life. Allison was the love of his life, and so for me to be compared to her by his father, who is a major critic, was a huge compliment. And then, I don't know, that just gave me chills. I never knew his mom. It's not like I ever had a chance to talk to her. So the fact that we have similar personalities, that's really special, know?
Yeah, no, that's an amazing thing. Thank you so much for taking the time. I don't know if Will was comfortable with all this, but this made my
leg fell asleep. That's about it. That's why I'm standing right now.
It was. Thank you so much for
thank you. That's
sharing
so fun to come on.
all of that. Yes, and so that does it for this episode of Bucher and Blackmon, subsidiary of Bucher and Friends, part of the United WeCast network. On my next podcast, since we had 3 co-hosts or tri-hosts on this one, the next one will be solo. It'll be Bucher, friendless. And I'm going to get into some of the things that have been going on around the NBA. Yes, I get to get on my soapbox all by myself.
This a rant? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I think pretty much. Yeah, kind of. That's probably what it'll be. But yeah.
All right, Guess you're gonna get the Bucher beat down. Guess.
Yeah,
Bucher beat down.
All right. So in the meantime, if you have a chance, wherever you get your podcast, iTunes or wherever, please leave us a rating. And if you want to be eligible for some prizes, tweet the rating to us. It doesn't matter how many stars you give us. Tweet it to @BucherFriends, and you'll be eligible for some prizes. Also, don't forget to join our NCAA bracket. And Shauna, you are welcome. Will says this is the first time he's ever filling out a bracket, so he may need some help.
Okay.
You are also...
All right.
Yeah, if you're really competitive, I think you should be filling out your own bracket, and we should see among the Blackmons who does better.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's do it. Wow, you're just going to accept it?
Yes, there we go.
Oh, hey, you know what? I have good instincts. Good instincts.
There we go. There we go. All right. For all of you listeners out there, thank you.